So I bet you know that Bitcoin just hit a new all-time high and it's currently at $112,000. But I bet you didn't know that if Bitcoin simply repeats what it did in 2013, 2017, and 2020, it could hit $230,000 in only 14 days. I know it sounds crazy, but I've got the maths and we're going to be running through the maths of exactly how that happens. We're going to also be talking about the 3 reasons for why I believe that in this Bitcoin bull run over the next 6 months, Bitcoin will not only break the stock to flow model, but it'll also break the power law model. And I believe it's going to begin its ascent upon the steeper part of the Bitcoin stock to flow model. But before we talk about any of that, let's listen to what we should be expecting over the next 13 days.
Go back and we look at past record high breaks, or if we eclipse the old all-time high, 3 of the 4 times Bitcoin doubled in 18 days or less. And so if you think about that for a second, once you break through an all-time high, it's price discovery. What is this thing worth? The world is going to try to figure that out. And 3 of the last 4 times in 18 days or less, it doubled in price. You add in the fact that we have the halving coming, and we're going to go from 900 Bitcoin a day coming into the supply to 450. And it's very hard to make an argument that Bitcoin is not going much higher and at a faster pace than we all expected.
Oh, we're going to be making that argument today. Don't you worry. We're going to be making the argument that Bitcoin is going to be going much higher, much faster than most people think. Because not only do we have a halving this cycle, but we are experiencing a supply suffocation from the Bitcoin publicly traded companies who are putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet as this pristine reserve asset, and they're not selling the Bitcoin. So we are going to be talking about, maybe I just gave away one of the 3 things I want to discuss today, but we are going to be talking about the supply suffocation. But I want to first start with breaking out the maths of what happens in the 14 days following Bitcoin all-time high breaks, because I was shocked. Nobody is aware that Bitcoin has done this on 3 out of the 4 last occasions that it has broken an all-time high. You can see very clearly Bitcoin absolutely explodes when it breaks previous all-time highs. I'm not going to spend too long on the chart because you guys can see it pretty clearly. Every single time Bitcoin's broken above a previous all-time high, it has been absolute fireworks higher, and it's never predictable. Most people are completely caught offside. And I just think there is the possibility that maybe, just maybe, the next 14 days could be even more bullish than most people think. Again, nobody knows where Bitcoin's going in the short term, but you can see we have just definitively broken above that $112,000 Bitcoin all-time high level. And this is happening at the exact same time that it looks as if the money printers are just about to be turned on. Before we talk about that, we have to talk about the first reason for why I am incredibly bullish right now, and that is because the supply suffocation is absolutely accelerating. It's not slowing down. It's getting more and more and more crazy. And if we take a really close look at this chart that I'm going to blow up for you guys right now, you can see what I'm working with. It's getting more bullish by the day, and now absolutely everybody is starting to talk about the Bitcoin supply suffocation and the very little amount of Bitcoin on the OTC desks. This is a video I haven't played for you yet, but I want you guys.
ProCap made a significant institutional move, purchasing 3,700 Bitcoin at an average price of $103,000 just yesterday. And the question is, right, there's not a lot of Bitcoin left. I mean, it sounds like the Wild West right now. Where do you find this Bitcoin?
Yeah, so we own now 4,950 Bitcoin. Our goal is to buy as much Bitcoin as we possibly can. I like to think of now there's a new professional sport for Bitcoiners, which is who can acquire the most Bitcoin. And as much as we want to buy as much Bitcoin as possible, there's a lot of other companies that want to do this as well. And so to your point, what you're starting to see is you are starting to see OTC desks or maybe Bitcoin on exchanges. Those numbers are going down. And so naturally, price will have to readjust upwards because people don't want to sell their Bitcoin at $107,000, $108,000. This has been the story of Bitcoin for 15 years now, is Bitcoin's price has got to go up to convince some people to sell to the new people who want to buy the Bitcoin.
It's the circle.
All right, it's pretty simple. Don't you think? It is incredibly simple. The Bitcoin price has to go up to convince old people to sell. And we're seeing people not sell their Bitcoin this bull run. What we're seeing is something we've never seen before. And we're actually witnessing a Bitcoin supply suffocation. This doesn't happen. Okay, in 2013 and in 2017, when the Bitcoin price enters a 12 to 18 month bull market, coins would typically go onto the exchanges as people would sell their Bitcoin for profits. But as we can see by this chart I'm going to be showing you guys in a moment, this is not happening. The Bitcoin on exchanges is simply evaporating, which again is something we've never seen before. And again, I found this new chart for you guys last week. This is the number of Bitcoin on the OTC desks. Now, these are very important to understand because Pompliano in that clip on Fox News that I just played for you, he directly referenced the fact that there is a Bitcoin buying frenzy going on right now. We have publicly traded companies with the ability to take out billions and billions of dollars worth of debt and use that debt to buy Bitcoin right now, racing with each other to buy more and more Bitcoin. We did not see this in 2021. In 2021, there was very little public corporation adoption and interest in Bitcoin. Nobody cared in 2021. Bitcoin was just a niche fringe asset. But now we can see that they're not only flooding into the Bitcoin space. I know I have a chart to show you just how many new publicly traded companies we've got coming into the Bitcoin space, but they're getting their exposure to Bitcoin in some really unique ways that most of us are not used to accounting for. Before we get to that, let's have a look here. We can see right now we're at 23 publicly traded companies who have added Bitcoin to their balance sheets in the past month. Think about that. That is nearly 6 a week. We're nearly seeing one publicly traded company or private company put Bitcoin on the balance sheet every single week. Again, I'm going to remind you guys, I did walk you through the maths recently where I showed you the average amount of Bitcoin on the balance sheet for these large public and privately traded treasury companies was 6,000 Bitcoin. Think about the maths here for a moment. If they want to acquire 6,000 Bitcoin, only 450 is mined every day. So if on average we're seeing nearly one new publicly traded company announce, hey, we've adopted a Bitcoin treasury strategy today, well, that means if they want to acquire 6,000 Bitcoin, there's only 450 Bitcoin mined every day. This is where the maths really doesn't compute. This is where the math does not math, okay? As we can see, the supply suffocation, I think, is going to be the biggest catalyst to send Bitcoin along what I think is going to look like an exponential S-curve adoption chart. I think we're going to see a stock to FOMO adoption chart. This is just how I think Bitcoin is going to be adopted, and that is because of Ozon's comment in the chat. Do not forget the 8x multiplier. It's nearly as if you read my mind, Ozon, because something else, another one of the reasons that I wanted to talk about today that's making me incredibly bullish is this brand new report that Gemini's published. They found that there is an 8x multiplier in the short term for Bitcoin. So what does that mean? It means that for every $1 that wants to flow into Bitcoin, it pushes the market cap up by 8x. And this is actually an average. This was their conservative estimate from the data that they've found. But what's really interesting is in the short term, that multiplier can be 0 or it can be as high as 25x on very volatile periods, or on days like today when there's not many sellers of Bitcoin or when you see a short squeeze. When Bitcoin breaks above these key kind of price points, a lot of the shorts would have to cover their shorts and flip from selling Bitcoin to buying Bitcoin. You combine this with the retail frenzy and the institutions and the corporations and the nation states who are buying Bitcoin, and you could see the perfect setup or the perfect environment for a 25x Bitcoin market cap multiplier. Okay, this is just the maths. This is exactly what Gemini has found in this new report, which again, thank you to Ozone for mentioning in the chat here. Things are incredibly bullish right now, and it's only a matter of time before we go much, much, much higher, okay? Again, I genuinely think you're not going to need that much Bitcoin to be very, very, very well off this bull run before we start discussing how much Bitcoin I think you might need. Let's just remind you guys, if you have 0 Bitcoin in your portfolio today, don't listen to me. Again, who cares what I'm saying? I'm just a 28-year-old kid with a terrible haircut on YouTube screaming at you about Bitcoin. Don't listen to me. Listen to the world's largest asset managers, because they right now are absolutely accelerating their Bitcoin push. They are all in on Bitcoin. We can see very clearly the world's largest asset manager is recommending a 2% Bitcoin allocation. We even have Spain's second largest bank recommending a 7% Bitcoin allocation. And let's not forget the multi-trillion-dollar Charles Schwab recently coming out and recommending a 10% allocation to Bitcoin. So again, if you've got 0 Bitcoin, just a little bit of a reminder, we covered this news earlier in the week. You should probably be listening to people like Larry Fink or the world's largest asset managers, because they are now looking at the same charts that we're looking at, and they are now coming to the same conclusions that we are coming to. And that is the fact that Bitcoin is going much higher, much faster than you think. Again, another catalyst I want to break down that I think is different this time, and I think can be a catalyst for Bitcoin to absolutely explode higher, is the fact that we don't have any headwinds this bull run. This bull run, we have tailwinds from the politicians. Bitcoin is accepted all around the world. We have America literally embracing Bitcoin. Think about how consequential that is for just one moment. We have America embracing Bitcoin. And this is slowly but surely starting to send some attention to the rest of the world. The rest of the world right now is being absolutely forced to pay very, very, very close attention to what America is doing. And this makes a lot of sense. Okay, we all know that America is the global reserve currency holder. The entire world benchmarks itself on the US dollar. And now the US dollar is essentially saying, look, we like Bitcoin. We want to accumulate a strategic Bitcoin reserve. I think that's absolutely crazy. And we are going to come back to the nation state race that I think is accelerating right now. But some other things that are absolutely crazy is the fact that Bloomberg terminals right now are listing the price of Bitcoin in the millions. I wish I was making it up, but I'm not. Take a very close look at this screenshot and this chart that I've pulled up for you guys right now. It's showing the price of Bitcoin is at 0.113. That's indicating a 113 Bitcoin price tag, but measured in millions of dollars. I thought that was absolutely insane when I saw that earlier this morning. I think that's absolutely hilarious, and maybe it's just a sign of things to come. Because let's not forget, Bitcoin's at $113,000 right now in America, but priced in other currencies, oh, I nearly said something inappropriate on a live stream. Priced in other currencies, it's a very different story. Bitcoin's at a new all-time high in my local home country, Australia, except we're at 170,000 Australian dollars. Think about that for a moment. And that's coming out on the same time that we now have the Australian Central Bank exploring it, creating its very own cryptocurrency. Boy, that's interesting. Are we talking about a CBDC in Australia? That certainly would not surprise me in the slightest, whether we saw a CBDC in Australia. I think it's happening. I think it's just inevitable. It's only a matter of time before we get there. But I think it's also only a matter of time before we see Bitcoin hit that $230,000 price point much quicker than most people think. So let's, once again, listen to that interview that I think is really interesting, which I think could be setting us up for the next couple of weeks being very bullish.
Do the math. I feel like I need to say that past results are not indicative necessarily of the future, because you sound so, I mean, it just sounds that anyone at home would, you know, if they're totally new at this game, they might mortgage their house and put it all in Bitcoin. And there is still risk in the asset, is there not?
I definitely don't think that they should do that, right? If you go and you ask most people in the Bitcoin world, they will tell you higher percentages than you would expect in terms of what they've put in. But I think 1 to 5% for a traditional portfolio ends up making sense.
But you just made a case for going from 70 to 140 in 18 days. I mean, that sounds like things that you hear on TV where you just want to really stay away from.
Bitcoin's up 20% in the last week. It's up 60% in the last month, and it's up 200% in the last year. I'm not saying it's going to 140,000. What I'm saying is 3 of the last 4 times, it doubled in 18 days. And with a halving upon us, it's just hard to not say this is likely to go much, much higher. And so what I think also we start to pay attention to here is, look, there's 3 main new buyers that are now going to come into the market. The first is public pension funds, right? We had a fund that was anchored by 2 public pension funds in Fairfax County. Catherine Molnar and Andy Speller were the CIOs there, and they're up 12x on their exposure to Bitcoin in that fund. And so when you see that, you say to yourself, wait a second, there's only 4 funds last year in all of state public pension funds that were fully funded. If they all went and put 1% in Bitcoin, there's a very strong possibility that a number of those funds would get back to fully funded status over the next 10, 15, 20 years. On top of that, you got sovereign wealth funds. They've been very quiet right now. There's now ETF opportunities from them. They don't have to go buy Bitcoin and potentially take the risk of the geopolitical backlash. They can simply go get the exposure without actually holding the Bitcoin. If a sovereign wealth fund comes out, especially a major one, and says, we've bought Bitcoin and it is a material percentage now of our portfolio, I think that there will be a global race between countries.
Do you think gold is up in sympathy with Bitcoin? I mean, why is, or is there inflation? The 34 trillion, inflation is coming down. Is it 34 trillion? Is it the number? Is it the amount of debt and how quickly it's growing that has Bitcoin and gold both strong in recent sessions or in recent months?
If you go and you look, one of the critiques of Bitcoin was it was a zero interest rate phenomenon. Right? Oh, if rates are down, Bitcoin's up. Yeah. If rates go up, Bitcoin comes down.
They haven't come down.
Well, rates are up and Bitcoin is back to an all-time high. Stocks are up, et cetera. So what Bitcoin has become is a index for global liquidity. And although the Fed, the ECB, and Japan are actually contracting their balance sheets, China has been basically giving the middle finger to the rest of the global economy. Okay. And they're saying, hey, we're going to ease here. We're going to go and put liquidity into the market. And so Bitcoin is a big, big winner. If you believe that the dollar is going to continue to be debased over the coming decade, Bitcoin's going to be a winner. And if you think global liquidity is going to go up, Bitcoin's going to be a winner there too.
And what's gold's market cap? Is it
10 trillion or so?
10 to 12 trillion. Yeah. Some people are looking for Bitcoin to be 10%. 50% of the market cap. Do you think it could be a multiple of the market cap of?
I think it's going to be 10 times the gold market cap much sooner than most people think. That's right. I genuinely think Bitcoin's going to hit $210 trillion as a market cap. And that is purely because it has the highest total addressable market cap of any asset of all time. Okay, again, I just think this is math. I just think it's coming. And that is because things like global liquidity are continually expanded. We can see here by this chart that right now global liquidity is just starting to tick up, and we know that Bitcoin is very correlated to global liquidity. And again, this isn't just an American celebration day with new all-time highs. We can see, have a look at the price of Bitcoin in the Turkish lira right now. It is over 4 million lira for 1 Bitcoin. This is absolutely insane. And this again goes back to the point we always talk about. Bitcoin is incredibly scarce. I love this little graphic here thought it was really cool. I wanted to break it down in a little bit more detail. The two people in the blue right there is representing how only 0.26% of the global population can own one full Bitcoin. Okay. And I do think this is going to accelerate much sooner than most people think. I don't want to talk about the treasury companies and how they could accumulate 50% of the Bitcoin just yet. Again, I want to give you guys a little bit of a pep talk. We're talking about some really bullish numbers today. We're talking about $230,000 Bitcoin potentially happening in a couple of weeks. Again, this isn't an exact science, but it has happened on 3 occasions. I think this is something that I would encourage you guys to be prepared for. If you've got Bitcoin on the exchanges, I don't know whether you've been around for prior bull runs, but every single time Bitcoin, especially Coinbase, get a hold of or even execute a trade on, because why? Well, who knows why, but we do know that, again, I would personally be wanting to be set up well for this bull run. Okay, this bull run is coming. I think it's going to accelerate much quicker than most people think, and I do think it's only a matter of time before things really start moving in a very, very, very bullish way. Okay, right now, oh no, don't tell me I'm frozen. We got so bullish that I got frozen. I hope we're not frozen, because I got more charts I want to go through with you guys today. Okay, we have over here, this is looking at the Bitcoin ETFs versus BlackRock's ETFs. And we can see very clearly how much money under management that little orange line has acquired. This is all Bitcoin ETPs. So these are exchange traded products. And look at how quickly Bitcoin just jumped all the way to $140 billion worth of money in these ETFs, okay? This is pretty insane. And when we think about it, I don't think this is going to be slowing down. I think this is only going to accelerate. Again, kudos to gold and gold ETPs in that black line, okay? We've seen a little bit of a rally in gold recently. Gold is getting a little bit of a bid as central banks kind of come to the realization that they need gold. But again, I think as Bitcoin aggressively pumps, you're going to see things that I think maybe new people this cycle might not have seen before. So Stevie OB in the chat says the exchanges will be overworked and they will freeze too. That's right. Again, this is my my third Bitcoin bull run, 2017, 2021, 2025. Been in Bitcoin for 8 years or so now, and every bull run, it's nearly like clockwork. Coinbase will freeze whenever Bitcoin is pumping aggressively, which again, obviously sparks all of the rumors that we probably don't have time to discuss today. But what I will tell you is just be prepared for this bull run, because like we've kind of talked about in today's video, and I haven't finished talking about it yet, Bitcoin explodes really quickly. Again, I have a really cool chart I want to show you, looking at how quickly Bitcoin typically pumps in bull runs. I'm going to show you the data in just one moment, but Bitcoin's bests, I believe it is 12 days, outperforms the rest of the year. Now, I know that sounds crazy. Hang on, there's 365 days in a year. How can only 12 days outperform the rest of the year's performance combined? Well, that is because of the chart I'm about to show you, because this is simply just the maths, and we actually have, I believe this is 10 years of data proving that Bitcoin's best 10 days outperform the rest of the days in that year combined. Okay, you can see very clearly. We might break this chart down in a moment for you guys if you haven't seen it before. But what I will say before we break down this chart is just be prepared for the price of Bitcoin to really do things that most people aren't ready for and aren't predicting, okay? Right now, it looks as if the consensus, if I were to take a little bit of a peep at the mainstream news, is Bitcoin's going to hit 150. You know, it's going to hit, $200,000. Many of the people who believe in the power law, which we will discuss in a moment, think we're going to hit $200,000. I saw this video today on Fox News. Look at this. Charles Payne is drawing lines on charts predicting $140,000 Bitcoin. That's pretty crazy. I didn't think I'd see the day where Fox News is literally predicting $140,000 Bitcoin. But the mainstream consensus is now coming to the realization that maybe, just maybe, $150,000, $200,000 Bitcoin is in the cards. It's the base case. Again, I don't think we're going to see altcoin season next because that is the base case. That is the common consensus. What is the trade that would hurt the most amount of people in this Bitcoin cycle? What if there is no alt season and the publicly traded Bitcoin treasury companies are the new beta? What if they are the new outperformers of Bitcoin this bull run? I think that's a genuine possibility that not enough people are talking about, and I do think it's going to happen. But the one thing that I'm personally scared about is Bitcoin surprising most people to the upside. I don't think most people are ready for this Bitcoin bull run. I think it's going to happen much quicker, much more aggressive than most people think, and that is purely because we haven't seen a real bull run in 8 years in Bitcoin. Again, I think 2021, it wasn't a real Bitcoin bull run. It got cut short because of the reasons we always talk about. I think we're going to see something much more like 2017, when Bitcoin 20x'd in 9 months. Went from 1,000 to 20,000 in 9 months, in between March 2017 and December 2017. So again, I would just implore you guys, think about securing yourself, not just financially, but mentally, to ride the waves that will come in this Bitcoin bull run. Again, please don't panic sell your Bitcoin at $150,000 or $200,000 Bitcoin when we hit these high numbers. So many people still think they have to sell their Bitcoin to actually get some liquidity that they've earned from Bitcoin appreciating. Again, you do not have to sell your Bitcoin. You can actually borrow against your Bitcoin and even avoid paying taxes. Again, not financial advice. If you're smart about what you do, I think a company that lets you do this really well is actually a company called FIREFISH. They let you borrow against your Bitcoin, and they are a Bitcoin peer-to-peer lending platform that is fully backed and fully transparent, and they don't take custody of your Bitcoin. This is very different to all of the Bitcoin lending companies like BlockFi, Celsius, and FTX that went bankrupt in prior years, who took custody of your Bitcoin and didn't tell you where the yield came from. Again, this is why I love FIREFISH. You get to literally create your own rates for the loans that you want on your Bitcoin. I highly recommend you check them out. I think they're the #1 place to borrow against your Bitcoin this upcoming Bitcoin bull run. And you can use a promo code Luke, and that's going to give you 30% off your first transaction over on FIREFISH. So again, take advantage of that 30% discount. Everything you need to know about them is linked down below. Now let's start talking about where we're going this bull run. Okay, now you hopefully are more informed about what to do with your Bitcoin when we start pumping. Because again, I do think so many people are going to make some rash decisions when we are moving much higher, much quicker than most people think. And again, I think one of the catalysts I think that is going to send us much higher is this chart right here. We can see very clearly. I will answer some questions here in a moment as well, guys. We have 1,010 of you guys all probably wondering what Knox Bill is wondering. Where are we going next? Again, we might explore that question in a moment. I personally think it is much higher. Again, I show you guys the receipts nearly every day on this channel of all the things that I think are pretty unpopular to say. Again, if you are not subscribed to the channel, subscribe. We do go live 3 to 4 times a week. Plus, we bring you some of the best interviews in the Bitcoin space. So if you're not subscribed, you're not going to see the recent interviews that I actually conducted here in BTC Prague at the largest Bitcoin conference in Europe. That just happened, it's 2 weeks ago now. So again, make sure you subscribe. But let's break down this chart right here. We can see this is a projection, but it's a projection making the case that Bitcoin treasury companies will accumulate 50% of all Bitcoin. Think about that for a minute. 50% of all Bitcoin. It's pretty interesting. We can see here Jesse Croesus is making the case that 50% of this Bitcoin will be held by MicroStrategy. Today, they hold 91% of the market share of Bitcoin. It's pretty interesting. That's very interesting indeed. That MicroStrategy has 91% of the domination and the market when it comes to Bitcoin treasury companies and how much Bitcoin they hold. Again, I showed you guys Bitcoin treasury companies earlier. We can see it's very clear. Below MicroStrategy, the second biggest Bitcoin holder is Marathon. They hold 50,000 coins. It's pretty incredible when you think about it. It's a lot of coins, but it's still a long way behind the 600,000 that Michael Saylor custodies at MicroStrategy. So again, I think that's super interesting. Let's take a little bit of a peep here in the comments section. There is 1,032 of you guys tuning in between YouTube and Twitter. Welcome. Congratulations for surviving what I think has been the darkest 4 years in Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin's been artificially suppressed in its price to allow the Wall Street giants who we see flooding into the space today in the form of the world's largest asset managers, the world's largest banks, who are now spruiking Bitcoin. I do think maybe, just maybe, the beach ball is about to be let flying out of the water. I do think maybe when we break this all-time high, there's going to be some big players incentivized to let Bitcoin absolutely rip this bull run. This could be interesting. This could be very, very interesting. Apparently, we're not at an all-time high when we're priced in euros or Great British pounds. $113,000. Guys, we are ripping right now. We are absolutely pumping. Where are we headed next? Well, we're going to answer some questions. Stark looks like a good deal, growth and a nice dividend. Well, Stark is actually the engine that Michael Saylor just used to raise another $4 billion worth of Bitcoin literally earlier this week. I was going to do a video on it for you guys, but I didn't. I've kind of just been going live when I think there is huge news to cover and a lot of it to cover. Let me know if you want a daily live stream. I will come back. I did this for a couple of months. The daily live streams. Just trying to find the data on MicroStrategy's most recent. Okay, it was through Stride, not Strike. We can see they raised $4 billion of capital through Stride. It's very interesting indeed to see that amount of Bitcoin raised. And again, this is a great comment from UWU. Chase your own yield at your own risk. 100% true. Never, ever, ever don't put more than 20% of your stack out of cold storage. The majority of your stack should always be in cold storage. 100% agree. This is, again, why I like FIREFISH, guys. Fully backed, fully transparent, open source code. They use Bitcoin multi-signature vaults, so you remain in control of your Bitcoin. Great comment, though, 100%. Keep it simple, stupid is one of my favorite sayings in the Bitcoin space, and that saying will take you a long way this Bitcoin bull run. Keep it simple, stupid. Don't be silly. Put your Bitcoin in cold storage and just zoom out a little bit. Okay, I think this bull run is literally only just beginning. I'd be remiss to say, look, if you're new to Bitcoin, if you are looking for somewhere to buy your Bitcoin, I think the most trusted Bitcoin-only exchange in the space is the Bitcoin Well. They're very similar to FIREFISH when they don't take custody of your Bitcoin, which is incredibly rare for an exchange, okay? Bitcoin Well says, look, you can buy your Bitcoin from us, but you have to take custody of the Bitcoin. And what's really cool about the Bitcoin Well is not only that, but they also give you Bitcoin rewards for simply buying Bitcoin. So again, highly recommend you check out the Bitcoin Well. Use a link down below for the Bitcoin Well, and make sure you use that promo code green candle so you do get some of those kickbacks every time you buy Bitcoin. And again, once you've bought your Bitcoin on the Bitcoin Well, do not make the next biggest mistake that most people in Bitcoin make. Everybody will buy a hardware wallet. Again, it doesn't matter which one you get. There's a ton of great options out there. But again, a lot of people will write down their Bitcoin 12 or 24 word private keys on paper. Please don't do that, guys. Paper does not survive house fires, floods, hurricanes, or even your dog coming to eat your homework, okay? It could mistakenly eat your Bitcoin backup. This is why I always encourage you guys to check out the titanium plates that Stampseed makes, okay? I think they're the industry standard. Titanium is stronger and better than stainless steel. And as you can see, they make all sorts of different plates for your Bitcoin 12 or 24 words. Highly recommend you check them out. Again, you guys can actually get 15% off anything you want to buy from Stampseed with a promo code Luke15. Again, check them out. They've been partners of the show for a year now. So again, I know that they have secured many of your 12 and 24 word backup phrases. So check them out. They're a trusted partner. They make one of the most in need products in the Bitcoin space, especially as we see the rise of what Stevie OB in the comment section has just pointed to, and that is the rise of ETFs, okay? ETFs is not real Bitcoin. Bitcoin today, guys, because I think this bull run is just heating up. I think it's going to get crazy, and I think that most people are just not prepared for when the bull run starts. As MSM from Twitter chimes in with, the bull run does not even started yet. It has not. It has absolutely not. Buenas noches, mi amigo. Es nueve. It's nueve en esta noches in Europa. It's very late. I'll let you guys tease my Spanish. It's 9 o'clock in the night over here in Europe. I'm trying to say that in Spanish. Guys, new all-time highs are coming. I think they're going to be coming much quicker than most people think. I think we've been flirting with this $110,000 level for some time now. I think as the globalists continue to try to crack down on Bitcoin, this is only going to accelerate its bull run. Again, if you do want to learn a little bit more about why I believe bank bail-ins and savings confiscations could be coming for not only Europe, but all across the world, I did a recent video where I dived into that. I'm going to put a link to that video up on screen after this live stream is finished, somewhere around there. And I also have another deep dive coming on this exact topic because I was shocked at what I recently found when I started reading all of these central bank digital currency blueprints. But with all that said, I'll end this live stream here. Thank you so much to everyone who joined.